Hey everyone, it is Mahira, aka MC Aquila, and it is Mermay, and I am working on a merfolk comic. It was once behind the wall of shame, it was once behind the shame curtains. It was on the wall of shame, hidden by the shame curtains, but I fixed the problem in the story, and bam, it's back. I will say, most of the things on my wall of shame do not have a thing where I can change one bit about something the character knows and it will fix everything, but it did, and I'm a little irritated that it was that easy because I really thought that I would not be able to work on this story this year, but I'm very, very glad that I'll be able to. So one thing I really enjoy both in this comic and just in general is making characters in batches, so like 2 at a time, because I have just an obsession with buddy comedies. So like this usually means that I make batches of like 2 BFFs at a time, or maybe like 4 BFFs. Like that hasn't happened in a while, but yeah, it's fun. BFFs are good, but like what makes them better? And I'm not talking about them becoming romantically involved, because that's not what's going on here. Instead, they are different species. But why is this an improvement? Why is interspecies friendship the best? Reason number 1 is the power of love, but not romantic, so it's different. Like, we've all seen power of love romance stuff like a billion times. This power of love is also interesting because these characters are like, they're too different. They could never be friends, right? Oh wait, they can, because love is stronger than differences, and maybe their differences make them better friends somehow. I mean, it's kind of My Little Pony. But it's fun. I enjoy the power of love outside of the context of romance. And also, I feel like we don't see enough of it without it being extremely tacky. Like, I swear, it is possible to do the power of love without it being just repulsively tacky. It really is. That often overlaps with like weird, like grace or weird blessings where like things work out well in the end, but it's just so bizarre or just so unexpected. Like, you know, making friends with a ravenous dragon that you think wants to eat you. That's pretty weird. Which that leads us into the second reason why interspecies friendship is awesome. It's the boy and his whatever trope. This trope is really popular and has loads of interspecies friendship overlap. So like the boy and his friend, who is also like kind of a pet, but not really. A good example is Hiccup and Toothless, both in the books, in the movies, especially the books is a good example. They're all so good. If you all haven't read the books, the first like 2 are a little rough, but once you get to How to Twist a Dragon's Tail, oh my gosh, so good. Another good example is, I think, Hogarth and the Iron Giant from the Iron Giant, because the Iron Giant is not, I mean, they're both kind of dumb, like they're both pretty immature intellectually and all that. You know, you get the feeling they're both like young in the head, which makes sense for Hogarth because he is a child, but the Iron Giant is just this giant who is not that smart, but he also has that dent in his head, so it's like, oh my gosh, so it's like brain damage. I'm seeing an overlap with my friendship that I'm working on for this story. One of them has brain damage. He had a concussion, he has amnesia whenever they first meet. Oh my gosh. Let's move on. The other reason why this trope is awesome, another form it can take, is the boy and his friend who is also a demon. This isn't that common outside of like Japanese media, I think. I've seen this mostly, like, it was in Fire Emblem Awakening with Chrom and Robin, and obviously that can be like a romance, but like it doesn't have to be. Like the main drama and appeal of it was still there even if it wasn't a romance, because oh my gosh, it's another case of like brain damage or whatever. I mean, it was like a spell that gave Robin amnesia, but oh my gosh, so many of these like boy and his whatever friendships have amnesia. Okay, this makes me feel a lot less bad for having amnesia, because I was like, oh, this is so cliche, no one does this, but all of them do it. Okay, another example of the boy and his friend who is also a demon is I guess Gray and Natsu kind of qualify. Like, it only came up briefly, so I don't know how much it really, like, is like a codifier of this, I guess. But it did help cause some pretty good drama where they, like, tried to murder each other. So that was nice. They're such good friends. And I guess that is also... I don't know if Natsu had, like, amnesia per se, but he didn't know he was, like, a demon or whatever. I forget if he was technically a demon or he was, like, a book demon, or... It was so confusing. Fairy Tail is so hard to follow. Anyways. The third example or type of boy in his whatever trope that stands out is just like Pokemon and Digimon. Those franchises are just this trope all the time. I think they're probably like the origin of my love for interspecies friendship in general. Yeah. Digimon sometimes fell into the mistake of always having the human and Digimon partners be very similar, like having really similar personalities. And yeah, Pokemon does this quite a bit too. And like, it can work to have, and it can be really fun to watch, you know, these two very different physically, a child and a giant creepy monster having pretty similar personalities, and like, it can be very cute and fun. But, you know, I also like seeing the young, fragile human child have like a personality clash with his big, freakishly powerful monster friend. Or even small monster friend, like Henry and Terriermon from the 3rd season of Digimon are a great example. Like, Henry was serious, earnest, he had this big brother vibes, and Terriermon was like, he was like everyone's mouthy younger brother. And it was they had such great banter. They clashed so much, but they were still good friends. And then when Terriermon evolved, he nearly shot those children to pieces with his gigantic machine guns that grew just right out of his arms. More good drama. So what about my comic? Is there interspecies friendship? Like, I mentioned that there is, like, it is less obviously interspecies. I really wanted to have a human and merperson friendship, especially after I desperately searched for this in other comics, and I never found it. Like, the human and merperson leads, they would always have a romance. Always. It was so frustrating because, I mean, yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm the only person who would look for this, but it was like, I was just hoping, and no, not even one. Yeah, and now I don't even have it on my comic either, which is kind of sad to me, because I really would enjoy that story, but, you know, maybe someday, maybe in another comic. But for now, we have the merfolk characters. We're staying in the merfolk undersea world. Well, they do go to the surface sometimes, but they don't run into any humans. So, in our cast, we have, I apologize if I mispronounce this. I haven't had the chance to double check these names. Surya and Arjun. Surya is a semi-nerdy, skinny merboy. He resents sea monsters because they murdered his family and probably like the rest of his village, and he has grown up isolated and manipulated by his mother figure, and he has lots of magic, which in this context is called mana. Arjun is a jock nerd. Oh no, he's not a jock nerd. Arjun is a jock demon merboy with amnesia. He thinks sea monsters are cool and kind of cute and friendly looking. And yeah, it's that, like I mentioned earlier, it's that boy and his friend's amnesiac, and also his friend is also kind of a demon. And oh my gosh, yeah, I did make a note about, like, wow, Arjun is a lot like Robin, but then I realized, while recording this, that the Iron Giant also has amnesia, and it's just very common in this trope, so it's fine. I am not breaking any rules, or I am not doing anything that, actually, I guess that's kind of bad that I'm doing what other people are doing, but I haven't seen this very much in webcomics before, so yeah, it's fine. I'll enjoy writing it, and I think people who like interspecies friendships will hopefully also enjoy reading it. So there we go. And we also have, as far as friendships go, we have Ika and Rashmi. Ika is or it might be Ika, I'm not sure. Ika is a beta fish mer girl. She can turn into a giant pink beta fish and freak people out, with her big swoopy wavy fins. They're all like whoosh whoosh whoosh. Oh, speaking of which, Surya and Arjun, they can't transform into fish like most mer people can. For Surya, it's mostly like a power equalizer because he's like skinny and nerdy. He's not very strong physically, but he does have all that mana. So if he could also transform, it would just be kind of overkill. And plus it gives us something to bond over whenever they first run into each other. Other than Arjun has amnesia, he can't remember anything, and he literally doesn't know anyone else other than this guy who's like being his doctor. Hey, I'm 16. You have amnesia and a bad concussion. Well, time to practice being a doctor for the first time by myself. It'll be fine. I have lots of mana. Oh my god. I swear, it's better than I'm making it sound, but saying it out loud just sounds really dorky. But anyway, back to Eka and Rashmi. Eka, the beta fish girl, she is a wannabe biologist and a sea monster researcher. She is trying to do the work she loves and not get killed or eaten by merfolk pirates. Yeah, so she's basically like a cute nerd girl, but she can turn into a big fish that's very aggressive. And yeah, and she's also how to put it, very stubborn. Yes, very stubborn. Rashmi is a warrior orca girl, and she is also very stubborn. Such great friends. She can also turn into an orca, of course. I don't know if I'll just kind of like ignore the fact that orcas are mammals and be like, oh no. Whenever she's transformed, she can swim underwater and breathe underwater. She has gills, but that feels kind of like cheating. But I also know that like other people have sea mammals as merfolk and stuff, and nobody questions that they have gills. So I don't know. Is that breaking rules? Let me know your thoughts. Anyways, so Rashmi and Eka, they grew up like sisters, and I think they probably have like a really petty disagreement between them when the story begins. Yeah, I mean, they both feel very strongly about it, which is normal because they're like, 18, 19. Yeah, so I'm still sorting them and their friendship out, but I once drew a picture of them high-fiving while they were transformed into like their fish and orca forms. So like I know their friendship is gonna be worth it, because whenever you have a giant beta fish and an orca high five, like you can't buy that. Anyways, yeah, I never realized that there were all these connections. And, well, not connections, just commonalities between these different, like, boy and his whatever stories. Like, I scripted this, I really did, but as I was reading it and recording this, only then did I realize, like, oh my gosh, these things are recurring. And it makes sense, because, like, it's like the same thing. Like, Surya is younger than Arjun, and Hogarth is obviously probably, I mean, we don't know how old the Iron Giant is, but like it was flying through space for goodness knows how long, because, space is freaking huge. So like, and how do you compute age with a big Iron Giant anyways? I don't know. I'm sure there's like film theorists who have talked about this. So I'm sure they probably have figured it out. I don't know. It's interesting because I've always liked that film ever since I was young. So it's just kind of, now I want to rewatch it. Anyways, I will, I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye-bye.